What's going on, internet? Let's wait for the YouTubes to wake up. The YouTube always wakes up last. That's how it goes. Guys, it's Thursday. Happy Thursday. Hope everyone is doing incredibly well. Hope everyone's crushing it. I really do. I hope everyone is having an amazing week so far. And sorry we're about a minute or two late. I was just getting everything ready, and it's kind of exciting. An election is going on right now as of the recording of this over in the UK. An election is happening right now, and let's go check out the results in real time, shall we? Check this out. Boom, this is from The Guardian. General election 2019, voters queue for most important poll in a generation, and here's the live news. Here's what's going on. Okay, all right. So I guess the band who rapped "Fuck You, I Won't Do What You Tell Me" have endorsed the former conservative cabinet member David Gauck. Could this election get any stranger? Former John Major to Rage Against the Machine. I do seem to have a broad coalition of support. I'm not familiar with that guy specifically. I'm not super familiar with all the players involved, so I can't really speak on that. I just saw Rage Against the Machine, and it drew my attention. But here's something that I feel like this sums it up a lot. Okay, there's Boris Johnson right there. Can you see that? Can you see that pretty clearly? That's Boris Johnson. There he is. That's Boris Johnson really awkwardly kissing a dog. And here's a different photo. Check out this photo. There's Jeremy Corbyn. There's Jeremy Corbyn with a cat who's like, yeah, I'm being pet by Jeremy Corbyn. And he's reading The Grapes of Wrath. Which looks more natural to you? Come on. Which one of those two would you want to vote for? Jeremy Corbyn or that? Look, come on. Sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. And if I had to be like, okay, there's Boris Johnson on the right, there's Jeremy Corbyn on the left. Which one are you more fond of? Which one would you go for? If you had to sum it up in two photos, which two photos would you pick? This one, boom, and then... Oh, it didn't go. Darn it. I need to go back to the link. It didn't. I see what it did there. All right. And then... Come on. Look at that. And hashtag Vote Labor Today is trending. And there's a lot of folks that had some interesting things to say about this. So, and again, I believe the polls close at 10 p.m. So over in the UK, it is not 10 p.m. there yet. It is about 6 p.m. over there as of the recording of this. So our stream will be long over by the time things are over. So we're not going to have an ending for anybody. But we will have this. So check this out. This was shared by Failed Evolution over on the Reddit subsection. Failed Evolution shares a lot of stuff over on the Reddit. You know who doesn't share a lot of stuff is Successful Evolution. Successful Evolution never shares stuff on this show. I don't know why, but Successful Evolution, not a fan, apparently. Maybe they just think everything's fine. Maybe Successful Evolution is like, dude, we got it. We won. Everything's good. I don't know why. I don't have to contribute to Ron. But check this out. Jill Stein also getting in a tiff about the election. So check this out. Jill Stein and Neera Tanden going at it on Twitter. All right. So here's what happened there. Let's start at the beginning. So Neera Tanden, I'm for a progressive movement in the UK and everywhere. Sure you are, American. The Center for American Progress is what Neera Tanden is the president of, and it is anything but a Center for American Progress. It is actually a neoliberal organization, a conservative organization disguised as something in the name of progress. Neera Tanden, of course, despises Bernie Sanders, despises the actual left, is kind of in the neoliberal Clinton camp. We all know who Neera Tanden is. But okay, so let's start here. Okay, so So here is Neera Tanden smearing Jeremy Corbyn. There's, of course, that the quote anti-Semitic smear on Jeremy Corbyn, which is exactly that. It is a complete smear that has been propagated by the corporate media around the world. The BBC, in fact, one of the glistening problems of the BBC that has really been amplified in recent years has been their incredible smear tactics against Jeremy Corbyn. And that has been screamed about over there by different progressives in England and elsewhere. And it's very apparent. Tons of studies have been done. In fact, a lot of folks argue, and I'm not as fluent in the smears against Jeremy Corbyn as I am against on the smears against Bernie Sanders, because I live in the U.S. and I spend a lot more time covering that sort of thing than I American politics than I do over in the UK. But a lot of people who have their ear to the ground on both a little bit better than I do, they say that Jeremy Corbyn gets it even worse than Bernie Sanders does in the U.S. I can't speak to that. I don't know if that's true or not. But I do know that he gets it, and it's very similar. The types of smears that Jeremy Corbyn gets over in the UK, very similar to what Bernie Sanders gets here. Who has it better? Who has it worse? I don't know. Well, neither of them have it better because neither of them have it good. So that's not – I know who has it better, neither. But as far as who has it worse, someone who's a little more fluent in both those things can speak on that. A couple of you guys mentioned, because I've been giving Gordon Dimmick some shout-outs on this show. Some of you guys mentioned you requested that we chat and do a segment together. I am all for that. I'll be reaching out to Gordon, and I want to wait until the election's over to get his take on it. So maybe next week, hopefully Gordon Dimmick and I will collaborate on something. Time zones, we'll have to work that out, but I think we can figure that out because, I really want to chat with that guy and get his opinion on everything that's going on. So I'll wait until the election's over, which, by the way, it's going to be over today. So here's Neera Tanden repeating the senseless smears against Jeremy Corbyn. I'll read that tweet to you. This letter has been written by so many I admire, including John Le Carre, blah, blah, blah. Labor's anti-Semitism problem should have been rooted out a long time ago. Concerns about anti-Semitism mean we cannot vote Labor. So here Jill Stein weighs in on this. Neera Tanden, Clinton's diehard enforcer of vote blue no matter who, joins the bogus right-wing smear campaign to stop the UK from electing a progressive government. Just in case you're curious how Clintonites will react if Bernie got past the DNC. Which is true. I mean, they will. I think a lot of the Clintonites, and when I say Clintonites, I don't mean the people who just came to the conclusion Hillary is the lesser evil than Trump. I'm going to vote Hillary. I live in a swing state. I'm not talking about the general public. I'm not talking about the people. I don't believe in voter shaming anyone because we're all in this together. And it's not us that's causing the problems. It's the establishment that's causing the problems. So when I say Clintonites, I'm referring to the establishment. I'm not referring to somebody who despised both candidates, who knew neither candidate was great, but who came to the conclusion, well, Hillary Clinton, not as bad as Donald Trump. I'm going to vote Hillary Clinton. I'm referring to the establishment Clintonites, the Neera Tandens of the world. Those people in the corporate media of the world, I think those people will side with Trump before they would side with Bernie Sanders. If Bernie Sanders is somehow the nominee, which I hope he is, I think they will do everything in their power to sabotage him. And I don't think they're going to say who they voted for. But I bet you if it was Trump v. Bernie, I bet you Neera Tanden would vote for Trump. I doubt she'd publicize it, but I bet she'd vote for Trump. Maybe I'm wrong. But I bet you she would vote for Trump. So Jill Stein responds with that. And all right, so let's go up the thread now. Neera Tanden says, I'm for a progressive government in the UK and everywhere. Wink, wink. But the person who helped stop that in the U.S. here we go again. But the person who helped stop that in the U.S. by telling us there was no difference between Hillary and Trump and got more votes in PA, Michigan, Wisconsin than Trump's margin is tweeting at me instead of lifting a finger to defeat Trump. Okay, first of all, here we get the rehashing of 2016. Now, this tweet has many problems in it. First of all, it assumes that all of the Green Party voters would have just voted for Hillary otherwise. It assumes that the Green Party isn't their own party, who has their own voters. It assumes that a lot of those people wouldn't have voted otherwise if there wasn't a green option on the ballot. Also, PA, Michigan, Wisconsin, those are all the places Hillary didn't bother to go. Well, she did go to PA, but she just hung out in the cities. She hung out in Pittsburgh. She hung out in Philadelphia. She didn't bother going to the middle. And guess what ended up happening? She lost Pennsylvania. Instead of going to the middle of Pennsylvania and saying, look, Donald Trump's making you all kinds of bogus promises about jobs, because that's what Donald Trump did. He's making you all kinds of bogus promises about jobs. I'm going to make you a better promise. I'm going to get you a green job. We're not going to reopen the steel mills. That's not going to happen. That's a lie. But if I'm elected president, I'm going to work with environmental coalitions. We're going to get you a new sustainable green job that is safer for you, that gets you better pay, and it's going to allow you to send your kids to college, and you're going to make a quality living wage, and you're going to have a job that's not going to put your health in danger. That's what I'm going to do. That's what she could have done in the middle of Pennsylvania. And I promise you, she would have won Pennsylvania if she did that. She didn't. Instead, she didn't bother showing up there saying, what are you going to do? Go for this Trump guy? Come on. You don't have a choice. You got to vote for me. We did the Pied Piper strategy. You have no choice. Well, they felt they did have a choice, and they voted against her. So, but Neera Tanden would rather blame Jill Stein, the person who got about 1% of the vote. And by the way, mathematically, it makes zero sense, because if you look at all third-party votes, that's like saying that all of Gary Johnson's votes were also guaranteed to Hillary Clinton. The only way third parties really technically made a dent is if you factor in Gary Johnson. And Gary Johnson, guess what? A lot of Gary Johnson voters would have been Trump voters otherwise. So if you want to argue this spoiler effect, which again, it's a problem. You're saying only certain people are entitled to democracy. You're assuming that those Green Party voters would have voted for Hillary otherwise, when a lot of them probably wouldn't have voted at all. So it's already flawed to begin with. But even mathematically, it makes zero sense. It's just a way to deflect, and it's a way to scapegoat people with no power. All right. So, Neera, everyone knows the DNC and Clinton camp worked together to sabotage Sanders, not to mention your Pied Piper strategy to use your media network to promote Trump. Now you're boosting a smear campaign to defeat Corbyn. Save us your I support progressives everywhere BS. And there you have it. Neera Tanden and Jill Stein going at it on the Twitter. And Failed Evolution shares that. You know what? Maybe Failed Evolution shares things that support their theory of failed evolution. Like here we have Neera Tanden rehashing debunked, tired talking points from 2016 while simultaneously trying to keep Jeremy Corbyn from winning today. And she has the audacity to claim she's a progressive. That's an example of a failed evolution to me. So I'm putting it in the Reddit subsection under the failed evolution banner. I get it. Neera Tanden, she supports progressive governments everywhere except for the United States and except for the UK. Where does she support it? Aren't you curious? Where does she? Not in the United States. Oh, no Bernie Sanders. In the UK, I guess you're supporting Jeremy Corbyn then. Nope. There's this right-wing smear job trying to say he's anti-Semitic that has been debunked many times over. I'm going to repeat that uncritically. Just like I'm going to repeat uncritically that the Green Party's not entitled to democracy, that how dare they enter our private elections. And of course, every Green Party voter would have voted for Clinton. It's not like they just go out and vote for their candidate, and if their candidate's not on the ballot, they just stay home. And I'm going to assume that all third-party voters would have been for Clinton instead of actually assuming, well, a lot of these Johnson voters probably would have voted for Trump otherwise if Johnson wasn't on the ballot, or they would have stayed home because guess what? The Libertarian Party is their own party. And some libertarians, even though I disagree with them on a lot, some of them will say, I'm not going to vote for a Republican because I can't take the corruption. I'm not going to vote for a Democrat because I can't take the corruption. If there's not a libertarian option, I'm staying home. So that's amazing. It's another election in another part of the world, and Neera Tanden still rehashes right-wing nonsense over in the UK, and she rehashes right-wing nonsense over in the US. So there you go. Failed Evolution shares that. So that's some people weighing in on today. Now, you might be thinking, Ron, I'm over in the UK, but I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote. Now, I encourage everybody to vote Labor. I really do. Vote Jeremy Corbyn. Vote Labor. But you might be thinking, Ron, I'm an anarchist, and or whatever ist you want to call yourself, and I don't vote, and I never vote. Russell Brand told me it was really cool to never vote, no matter what, and I'm not going to vote. Well, that's your choice, but check this out. This is interesting. Now, Truth to Tweet shared this. Again, Truth to Tweet shares a lot with Get Your News On with Ron. False to Tweet never shares anything with this show. I mean, if they did, that might be difficult. If they're false to tweet, I'd really have to scrutinize that pretty heavily. I'd be like, what are they sharing with me? Is this good information? Is this faulty information? I don't know. They're false to tweet. It might be false, but truth to tweet, well, they're telling the truth. Isn't that nice? So check this out. We're going to go get the audio on this puppy. So Alan Moore, oh, here, hold on. Let me rewind it, and then we'll watch it with the sound on. But Alan Moore wrote V for Vendetta. Full admission right here. I've not read V for Vendetta. I've seen the movie. I've seen the movie, and I love the movie. It's a brilliant movie. If you haven't seen V for Vendetta, definitely check it out. I'm going to be rewatching it again soon because I found out this morning my fiance hasn't seen it because I told her about this. I'm like, oh, the guy that wrote V for Vendetta, he's going to be voting Labor today. It's really infectious. There's a movement happening. And she goes, V for Vendetta. I've seen bits and pieces of that movie, but you never seen all of V for Vendetta? She said, no. So we're going to be watching V for Vendetta. That's something we're going to be doing. But anyway, Alan Moore, the anarchist who wrote V for Vendetta, has not voted in decades. The author of V for Vendetta is arguably the world's most celebrated anarchist, says Warmonger Hodges over here on Twitter. And today, he's voting Labor. Alan Moore knows the score, and they say hashtag vote Labor today. So let's check this out. Why is he voting Labor today? He hasn't voted in decades. Why is he voting today, and why is he voting Labor?
I am an anarchist, but the reason that I will be voting Labour in this election is that I am convinced that if we have another 4 years of these monstrous, rapacious Tories, we may not ever have another meaningful vote upon anything. I think the stakes are that high. Go out and do your best.
Wow. That's an anarchist saying that. That's the anarchist Alan Moore, who wrote V for Vendetta, saying that. That if we don't get out today, we may not have another meaningful vote. If we have more of the Tories nonsense, we may not have another meaningful vote. Now, I am not an expert in UK politics or anything close to it. I do not have as close of an ear to the ground as other people do. But I do know that there is a worldwide problem of rugged neoliberalism, and it is infecting the UK and it is infecting the US. And I echo Alan Moore's sentiments, both over there in the UK. And I hope if you're in the UK, you take hold of that message. Here, I'll play it one more time. Again, this is the anarchist who wrote V for Vendetta, who hasn't voted in decades. Here's what he has to say about the vote that's happening today, that's happening right now.
I am an anarchist, but the reason that I will be voting Labour in this election is that I am convinced that if we have another 4 years of these monstrous, rapacious Tories, we may not ever have another meaningful vote upon anything. I think the stakes are that high. Go out and do your best.
I agree with him. I agree with him when it comes to 2020 for the United States, too. Because what 2020 is going to be for the United States, and again, the same thing is going on in the UK, is that we are at a crossroads. Society all around the world is at a crossroads. People are protesting. People are striking. There are protests in France and Chile. The world is rising up because we are at a crossroads where capitalism has done once again what it's set up to do, to drive up disparity and put the working class on their knees. And they're at that crossroads over in the UK right now, and we're at that crossroads in the US too, where we have a choice. Do we continue this path, or do we make a sharp turn? And if we don't make that sharp turn, I don't know when there's going to be another chance to make it. Jeremy Corbyn's not a perfect man. I know that. Bernie Sanders isn't a perfect man either. I know that. But when candidates like them get this far, it's because the establishment let something through that they shouldn't have. The establishment's job is to prevent something like that from happening. But the movements were strong enough that they weren't able to. At least when the UK, they weren't able to keep them off the ballot getting this far. With the US, there's more hurdles to get through, because Bernie's got to get through a primary, and getting through that primary is going to be really hard. But there's a chance now to have that crossroads and to start a real political revolution. And I don't know when the UK will get another shot if Jeremy Corbyn doesn't win today. And I don't know when the US will get another shot if Bernie Sanders is not the nominee. I do think the stakes are incredibly high in 2020. Incredibly. There's not been anything like this in my lifetime. That's goes without saying. And I don't know when we'll have another shot. I really don't. And you have to ask yourself, especially here in the United States, because if Bernie's not the nominee, and if it's just some corporate Democrat who it's pretty much guaranteed they'll lose to Trump. I mean, the chances of any of those candidates beating Trump are very, very, very slim. Sure, a lot can happen between now and November of 2020, but they're very, very slim. And if somehow Trump's not the nominee and there's a different nominee, I think the chances get even slimmer. Because there is not an entity in this world that I know of that is better at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory than the Democratic Party in the United States. If there is such an entity, I'm not aware of it. You know how if you have a true or false exam, like if you have a test and it's just true or false, and if you just guess true for all of them or false for all of them, you're bound to get some right. Like you're just bound to, because there's only two options. It's a little Nixon thing there, not intentionally. I'm not a crook, but you're bound to get some of them right because there's only two choices. That explains the Democratic victories, at least in my lifetime. Every time the Democrats have won virtually anything, with a few exceptions of progressives trying to infiltrate the system, it's because they couldn't lose. There's only two choices, and the other choice has just disenfranchised people so much that they just, they had to win. Like, the only time you see successes in the midterms is when people are just so sick of the Republicans. That's the only time. And whenever there was a chance where it was going to be close, they lose. In 2004, they couldn't beat Bush. A lot of people were fed up with Bush, but some people were still behind him. If there was a real opposition party, they would have beat him, but they didn't. They lost. Kerry couldn't beat him. And now John Kerry, who's that professional loser endorsing? Joe Biden, the guy who would get crushed by Trump even worse than Hillary did. So we're at a crossroads here in the United States as well. And you have to ask yourself, okay, if we don't take this sharp turn, if we continue the Washington corruption as usual, if we continue denying climate change or having little to no plan to do anything about it, if we continue tax breaks for the rich while throwing the working class out in the cold, if we continue letting people die in the streets without health care, if we continue allowing education, not just at the college level, but at the K through 12 level too, private education is becoming more privatized by the day, and Betsy DeVos loves it with a smile on her face. And we're not talking about any of that stuff because the corporate media doesn't want to talk about anything except for these impeachment hearings 24 hours a day. Just like before that, they wanted to talk about nothing but Russiagate 24 hours a day. If we continue down this path, you have to ask yourself, can we take 20 to 30 more years of this rugged, fringe, right-wing, neo-fascist style of governing and rugged neoliberalism? I don't think we can. I honestly don't think we can. And that's not an embellishment. Like I'm not trying to be over. I honestly don't think that we can take 20 to 30 more years of it. And will we get another opportunity to make a sharp turn in 20 to 30 years? It's not guaranteed that we will. It's just not. So I agree with Alan Moore. The stakes are that high. The stakes are that high in the UK. The stakes are that high in the USA. The stakes are that high around the world. We need a political revolution. Honestly, the survival of this planet, or at least the survival of us on this planet, the planet's going to be fine. We might not be here much longer, but the planet's going to be fine. But that really hinges on what happens within the next year or so. So weird way to end the week. This is a weird tangent that I went on here. But I do believe that the stakes are that high. I do believe that we might not get another chance for another 20 to 30 years to make a sharp turn in this country. And you have to ask yourselves, do we have that to spare? There's a climate disaster on the brink. And right now, the person sitting in the White House doesn't even think climate change is real. And a lot of his, quote, opponents think we can just get to it someday over the rainbow. Yeah, maybe in 2045, if only a couple people have gasoline cars, we'll be fine. Can we take that for 20 to 30 more years? I say no. I say no. I don't think we can. So the stakes are really high this time around. They really are. And we'll see what happens over in the UK. Obviously, the stream will be over before the election is over. They get to vote till 10 out there, by the way. It's almost like they encourage voter participation a little bit better over there than they do in the United States. And I'm sure they got their problems with their elections. I'm not saying they're perfect. Of course, they're not. But it's almost like voting over there is just a little bit easier than in the United States, where we vote. We vote on a Tuesday. The polls close early. People get purged off the rolls all the time. They make it sometimes finding the place you're supposed to go vote is like finding a needle in the haystack. You got to solve a riddle under a bridge to find it. And you may or may not be able to vote. By the way, you may show up and you may be given a provisional ballot where they say, "Oh yeah, something happened with the rolls, but don't worry, you're still going to be accounted for." You're not, by the way. You're not. I was there in California, and there were people all around me in line being given provisional ballots, and they're like, "Oh yeah, something happened with the rolls. Sorry." And I was just like, "Wow, okay." That's really sad for these people that waited in line. And the person said to me, well, it's going to be counted. And I was like, I envy your optimism. I really do. I'm not trying to, this isn't your fault. You're a volunteer. You're doing the Lord's work, actually. I'm not trying to bark at you. But if we're being honest, pal, I envy your optimism. And he said, well, I believe them. And I said, once again, I envy your optimism. I was like, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, man. You're doing the work. I'm not like, you're volunteering your time. This is not on you. But it's just really sad that a lot of these people are not going to have their votes counted. And we're watching it happen in real time. That's what happened to me the last time I went to vote. I mean, I didn't get a ballot, but I saw it to a bunch of people around me. I happened to not get one, which was great. I was able to vote, and I voted for rent control, and I voted for a public bank, and both of them lost. But so the stakes are high, and I wish everyone in the UK the absolute best today. And I am rooting for Labour, and I am rooting for Jeremy Corbyn, because there's nothing pragmatic about an incremental solution to a catastrophic problem. And right now, the world has a catastrophic problem, and we need a sharp turn. There's a time for baby steps, and there's a time for a sharp turn. Our world is at a point where it's time for a sharp turn. That's true in the UK. That's true in the US. And I agree with Alan Moore, the anarchist who wrote V for Vendetta, who's going to be voting today for the first time in decades. It's time for a sharp turn, and the stakes are this high. All right. Go Labour. Go Jeremy Corbyn. Thus concludes talking about what's going on there. So let's go over to the U.S. So over on Twitter, a new trend happened, and it's RefundPete. In fact, you can see it right here. You can see it right here trending on the Twitter. RefundPete. Check that out. There it is right there. RefundPete. What does that mean? What's going on? Well, let's look, shall we? So Kyle Kalinske tweeted this, and this started getting retweeted a bunch of different places. Here's Pete Buttigieg. So the RefundPete thing, before we jump into it, so the RefundPete thing, of course, refers to Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg. It refers to Pete Buttigieg. Yeah, it's Buttigieg. That's how you say it. I like to say it like Count Chocula. People get mad. I like to go, Buttigieg. But it's actually easier for me to pronounce it like right if I do it that way. Because it's Buttigieg. According to him, that's what Pete himself said. It's Buttigieg. As if you're saying boot and then edge. It's easier to say if you do it like Count Chocula. Buttigieg. That's the right pronunciation. It's just being said in a really embellished way. People get mad when I do that. They're like, it's really juvenile, blah, blah. No, I'm actually pronouncing it right. I'm just doing an impression of a commercial from both of our youths. Because Pete and I are close to the same age. He's older than me, but, anyway. So, RefundPete is trending because Pete Buttigieg has changed his tune about some things. And about some pretty big things. Ron, are you going to bring up the essay he wrote about Bernie Sanders in a long time ago when he was in high school? I'm not, actually. I'm not. You know why? Because I was a different person when I was in high school politically, and I was not even politically awake in high school. I had virtually no political opinions whatsoever in high school because I was clueless. So the fact that he at least had opinions, and he had better ones, I'm not going to judge him for that. People are different when they're in high school than now. What I'm going to judge him for is what he said about a year ago versus what he's saying now on a very important piece of policy, Medicare for all. So let's go to this thread. Check this out. Here's the People's Summit, an organization, I believe they do the People's Summit in Chicago. So he said something to the People's Summit. Buh! First of all, someone brought this up on the Twitter. What does buh mean? B-U-H. Who says that? Buh. Why wouldn't you say, hey, question mark, or huh, or what, or buh? Who says that? It's pretty weird. Maybe that's huh in one of the 7 languages Pete Buttigieg speaks. But anyway, where have you heard me oppose Medicare for all? He's asking the People's Summit. I guess they said something about him opposing Medicare for all. People's Summit responds, we never said you opposed it, but where did you say you support it? Not once have you tweeted support for HR 676. We checked your handle and every possible hashtag or term. If we're wrong, please show us where you've mentioned it. Dang, it's been less than 24 hours, and I've been slightly busy. I've also been on record on this one since 2004. So he references something from 2004 where he says he supports, single-payer healthcare. No worries. We understand you're busy, says the People's Summit back, but you wrote that article 14 years ago as a student at Harvard. I don't think you were a politician 14 years ago. Also, back in high school, you supported Bernie Sanders. You certainly don't now. You don't like Bernie Sanders anymore. So you've changed between those years and now. So what are you saying now? Can you affirmatively say that we need Medicare for all now and that insurance does not belong in healthcare? Question mark. Here's what Pete says. Gosh. Now that's a little bit more universal. Gosh, I hear a lot. Buh, I've never B-U-H. What is that? Somebody pointed that out on Twitter, and I agree with them. B-U-H. What? Anyway, maybe it's a thing I'm not hip to. Gosh, says Pete Buttigieg. Okay, I, Pete Buttigieg, politician, do henceforth and for a little condescending here. He's a condescending person. He's very annoying. If you find that clip where somebody asked him if he was going to take money, if when he says he wants money out of politics, if that includes taking donations from billionaires, and he just said no. I don't know how anybody likes this guy. But anyway, gosh, okay, I, Pete Buttigieg, politician, do henceforth and forthwith declare most affirmatively and indubitably unto the ages that I do favor Medicare for all, as I do favor any measure that would help all Americans get covered. Now, if you'll excuse me, potholes await. Gee, Pete, that tweet sure hasn't aged well. And guess what? I'm going to go out on a limb. I bet you that South Bend, Indiana still has potholes. I bet you anything. If you're in South Bend, Indiana, let me know in the comments section, because I bet they still got potholes. I bet they still got potholes. I bet they still have an over-militarized racist police force that's gone unchecked. I bet they still have all those things. And when did Pete Buttigieg say this, by the way? A year ago. A year ago. So Pete Buttigieg claimed he was for Medicare for all. And that was a lie. He's not for Medicare for all. He is against it. In fact, if you watch our video from yesterday, Pete Buttigieg uses right-wing talking points that are over 10 years old to smear Medicare for all. It's going to take away jobs. Now, it's also going to give a bunch more jobs. And thousands of people aren't going to die on the streets because of lack of health care. And people aren't going to be paying as much for health care, which is going to benefit our economy. It's going to create more jobs, not just in the healthcare sector, because you're going to need people to operate the program. You're going to need people to operate Medicare for all. That comes with jobs all across the country. But it's also going to create more jobs. Why? Because people are going to have more money in their pocket. We're going to be spending trillions less on healthcare overall. So people are going to have more money in their pocket. That's going to equal jobs. And Lucy's here. Lucy wants to say hello. Because she's saying she knows a bullshit right-wing talking point from over 10 years ago. Because she was around for it. Kind of outing you, girl. I'm sorry. But Lucy is over 10. Right, Luce? She's like, why are you telling them my age? I didn't tell them your age. I just said over 10. That's all I said. Over 10. Here, I'll go back to this so you can get. There's Luce. See her? Lucy says hi. A lot of you guys are like, Ron, don't wear black shirts on the stream, because I just happen to own a lot of black shirts. I'm sorry. I can't. I'd have to wear the same shirt like almost every day if I only wore shirts where like she would show up perfectly when she's on my lap. So, I can do that. But you guys have to let me know. Be like, Ron, we want you have to get a uniform that's a bright color. It says like Ron on it. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll get a Get Your News On With Ron shirt, and I'll just wear it for the stream every day. I won't wear it all day. I'll just wear it for the stream, and that'll be like blue or something like that so that she doesn't blend in. Maybe I'll do that. Patreon.com/Ron Placone if you were so able. Help make that a reality. All right. Anyway, so Pete Buttigieg. Now, here's something else Pete Buttigieg did. Or, well, not him directly, but Jordan Chariton exposed this. Check this out. Jordan tweeted this out late last night. And we're going to go ahead and watch the video. Here, let me get my headphones back on here. See if there's... Check this out. Pete Buttigieg campaign calls the cops on New York City activists protesting his big dollar fundraiser. Let's watch it from the beginning. So this is from New York Communities for Change. Rather than coming out to talk with working class New Yorkers or letting us in, it's cold out here, Pete Buttigieg called the cops on us. Why did Wall Street Pete come to campaign in our city if he's afraid to talk to us? So it was the campaign that called the cops, and now it's not loading. That's annoying. Here we go.
justice, no peace. Where is peace? No justice, no peace. Where is peace?
I like that.
No justice, no peace. Where is peace? No justice, no peace.
They were chanting, "Where is peace?" At least that's what I heard. Oh, I wasn't showing it to you guys. Oh, man. All right, here, let's do that again. Breaking, Pete Buttigieg campaign calls the cops on New York City activists protesting his big dollar fundraiser. That's from Jordan Chariton. So this is from New York Communities for Change. Rather than coming out to talk with working class New Yorkers or letting us in, it's cold out here, Pete Buttigieg called the cops on us. Why did Wall Street Pete come to a campaign in our city if he's afraid to talk to us? So here they go.
Is that what it said? He called the cops on us? Justice, no peace. Where is peace? No 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 justice, no peace.
They were chanting, "Where is Pete? No justice, no peace. Where is Pete? No justice, no peace." I like that. It's pretty clever. Pretty clever. And Pete Buttigieg called the cops. They called the cops on people protesting his big Wall Street big donor event. The same guy who wouldn't do anything about a racist police force has a campaign that calls the cops on black people who are protesting his big dollar fundraiser. Interesting. Interesting. Pete Buttigieg is the candidate for people who called the cops on Kagers on Saturday night when they were in college because they needed to study. That's who he's the candidate for. People who when they were in college would call the cops on parties going on in the neighborhood in the weekend because they were trying to study. That is who he's the candidate for. And people who don't care about policies because I guess they're rich. People who don't really care about what happens in the country because they have means. That's who Pete Buttigieg is for. It's exactly who he's for. So there you go. Calling the cops on black activists. And completely lying about Medicare for all. That's what Pete Buttigieg is doing. All right. Thank you. Thank you to Jordan Chariton and New York Communities for Change. Thank you, Jordan Chariton, for tweeting that out and amplifying it. And thank you, New York Communities for Change, for showing up there and protesting. That's awesome. All right. So this is from Emberg. And this goes into facial recognition. This is going to be our last story of the day. Thank you, Emberg, for sharing this. So you guys know that facial recognition software is being completely abused. I helped Fight for the Future with a campaign around it. Our facial recognition is used in a very over-militarized way. It is very faulty software. It can get it wrong up to 98% of the time. They're using it on the streets, in particular against communities of color. And they're getting mismatches constantly. And it's already happened where people have been deported to countries that they've never even been to because of faulty facial recognition software. So this technology is faulty. This technology is being abused to the nth degree, and it should be banned in law enforcement. So here's something that happened to an ACLU lawyer. So check this out. Now, they're saying they're not going to over-militarize with this. They're not going to abuse this. But an ACLU lawyer tried to get out of it, and they couldn't. Check out this story. Look what happened. So this is from Shaw Drake. A border officer told me I couldn't opt out of a facial recognition scan, and they were wrong. This is from the author of this piece, if I, carrying all the privilege of a white ACLU lawyer, could not opt out of the invasive technology, what chance do other travelers, and particularly people of color, have to assert their rights? So here's what happened. Look at the camera, a Customs and Border Protection officer told me as I approached the primary inspection point at the Paso del Norte point of entry. Is that the face recognition technology? If so, I want to opt out. Look at the camera. I want to opt out. Look at the camera. I want to opt out. On the evening of November 25th, 2019, I crossed from Mexico into the United States. Signs in the port noted the new use of facial recognition technology and United States citizens' option to undergo alternative procedures. After handing over my U.S. passport card, and despite my repeated protests, the CBP officer took my picture anyway. Here's what they say. CBP is capturing exit and exit photographs of travelers to help improve border security, prevent identity theft, and facilitate your next trip to the United States. Photos of U.S. citizens will be deleted after the individual identity is verified. CBP will not retain photos of U.S. citizens. Photos of foreign nationals will be stored, blah, blah, blah. If you are a U.S. citizen and wish to undergo alternative procedures, please advise the CBP officer when you approach primary. This person who is an ACLU lawyer said they wanted an alternative procedure. The officer said tough and took their picture anyway. And by the way, these databases have been hacked already. Databases at the border have been hacked, which has sensitive information about people's identity along with a photo that the border protection took. That is getting hacked. And imagine what someone could do with that when it gets in the wrong hand. They have a border photo that was taken of you by a professional agency, a professional border agency, and they have all this sensitive information about you, and that was all hijacked. It's already happened. There's already been a couple border offices that have been hacked. We talked about that on the show. You can look it up. It's already happened. And now an ACLU lawyer opted for an alternative procedure, which is their right to do so. They were denied. I hope they sue and get a lot. I hope they sue and get a lot. All right. Thank you for sharing that, M. Berg. All right. Let me see what you guys are saying, and we will put a period on another week, right? Yeah, you know the drill. Good luck to everyone over in the UK. Once again, good luck, good luck, good luck. Man, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you, Labor. I'm rooting for you, Corbyn. Owen Johnson, thank you for the super chat contribution. Was going to use this to promote Mark Charles. I'll be honest with you, off the top of my head, I'm not familiar with what that is. But instead, boycott Tesla. Their share prices went up after Bolivia coup caused Morales was negotiating a much better deal for lithium with China. Burn and turn. Right on. Marcus, when you think about it, Mayor Pete is an American neoliberal Putin. Former intelligence officer, wants to invade neighbors, connections to plutocrat, etc. Interesting, Marcus. I like that. Very interesting. I like that. R.D. Patterson, enjoy the show, Ron. Thank you very much, Owen. Thank you very much, Marcus. Thank you very much, R.D. Patterson. And thank you very much to Truth to Tweet, Failed Evolution, and Emberg for contributing to today's stories. Guys, tour dates, I got them this weekend. Tickets are going fast. Get yours now. Southern California. Tomorrow night, Friday, Ventura Harbor Comedy Club. Graham Elwood and myself are going to be premiering our 2020 sets. Saturday night, Los Angeles at the Dojo of Comedy Sycamore Tavern. We're doing a show right in Los Angeles. Jimmy Dore is doing a set on that show. Steph Semorano is going to be doing a set on that show. The gang's all there. Tickets are only $10, 8 p.m., right in Hollywood. Free parking. Get your tickets now. Don't wait. RonFlacone.com. 2020, what dates are confirmed already? February 8th, Tucson, Arizona. February 29th, San Francisco, California. March 12th, Orlando. March 13th, we're working on Tampa. Hold tight. We should have those details real soon. March 14th, Miami, Florida. April 10th, I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. April 24th, Seattle, Washington. April 25th, Portland, Oregon. July 11th, Chicago, Illinois. July 12th, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Those are all the dates that are confirmed so far, but we will be announcing a lot more dates within the next couple months, and we shall have our entire 2020 tour dates finalized within the first quarter of 2020. So keep a lookout, RonFlacone.com, for all those tickets. If you want to support this show on the sustainability end, please do consider becoming a patron. Guys, a new year is upon us. I want to start doing mini documentaries about municipal broadband. I've talked to some people about it. I think that's the best way to really get the message out and to really start a nationwide grassroots movement to get city-owned internet all over the country. City-owned internet takes the internet out of big cable's hands, puts it into the hands of we the people. Because without a free and open internet, without guaranteed net neutrality, and without a solid communication vehicle that is the internet in our day and age, solving all of our problems will be very, very, very difficult. So we need to preserve the internet. We really do. And that's one of the missions of this show. I want to start doing documentaries about that, but I need more resources to do that. I need producers. I need editors. I need all those people, and I need to be able to give them something for their time and their efforts. I want to have a producer here with me all the time, supervising this show. I need all those things. I do not have the resources for it quite yet. I am a one-man ship as of right now. If you do have an extra $1 or $2 a month, it goes a long way. You believe in the mission of this show, you like Get Your News On with Ron, please consider throwing it my way. For a Give What You Can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content, including my album in its entirety. You get stand-up clips not available anywhere else. You get dialogues between myself and my cat, Lucy. You get an exclusive patrons-only stream once a week, where I only look at ideas and articles and topics submitted by the patrons in the Patreon realm. So please, if you are able, patreon.com/Ron Placone. Guys, thanks for another great week. The podcast drops tomorrow. If you missed any of the highlights from this week, the podcast drops tomorrow. It's just Get Your News On with Ron wherever you get your podcast. So keep a lookout for that. We'll be back on Monday for Music Monday. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. And in honor of today, I just got one more thing to say. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn.